All right, guys. So we have a new video. Disheveled David's messy appearance stuns the courtroom. There has been some more updates involving this case, and this is one of them. So let's check it out.
Accused child murderer David was back in court today for a status conference, a key meeting before a major reported multi-day preliminary hearing that was supposed to happen in 2 weeks. Although, what happened today? What happened in court? What did we learn? What can we expect from the prosecution and the defense? And also, how did the romantic homicide singer look and act? Breaking it all down with a reporter who was inside that courtroom. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, we just had a new hearing in the David case, just wrapped up this status conference. The sides coming together with the judge, determining where we're at in the case, what's going to happen. Now, I'm going to give you a little preview. We were supposed to have a preliminary hearing on June 29th, and it's reportedly going to be a few days. This is when the prosecution will present the evidence that they have. Maybe not all the evidence, but enough evidence to say, hey, judge, there's sufficient probable cause to support the charges and for this case to go to trial. That's what a preliminary hearing is. The defense has an opportunity to challenge the evidence. Now, I say that, but you're going to hear how the timeline got a little tricky today based on what happened in court. Now, David is currently charged with first-degree murder, continuous sexual abuse of a child under 14, and unlawful mutilation of human remains, all in connection with the death of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Remember, back in September 8th, 2025, that was the day after what would have been Celeste's 15th birthday. Her dismembered, decomposed body is found.
That was a day after her birthday? That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Reportedly in the front trunk of a Tesla,
That's
allegedly registered to David at an LA tow yard. At the tow yard, LAPD detectives apparently opened the Tesla's front storage compartment and found a black cadaver bag that was covered with insects. Inside the bag, they reportedly discovered a severely decomposed head and torso. There was a plastic garbage bag beneath the black cadaver bag that reportedly contained the dismembered arms and legs. Now, it was also reported that Celeste's ring and pinky fingers on her left hand had been amputated, that they were not found in this car. But prosecutors allege that David was in this illegal sexual relationship with Celeste, that he lured her to his rental home out in LA on April 23rd and stabbed her to death, allegedly watched her bleed out, and then reportedly took horrifying measures to conceal this alleged crime.
Only a monster can do some shit like this. So when this case first came out, and the story came out about a body being found in a Tesla, I didn't really read into the details. I didn't know that, like, the head and the torso were in one bag and that the limbs were in another, and that the pinky finger was missing. Like, what? That's just fucking weird. That's disgusting.
They claim that he allegedly purchased a blue inflatable pool, chainsaws, a body bag, heavy-duty laundry bags, that he dismembered her body. They claim that he made suspicious trips out to the Santa Barbara County area, that he allegedly lied to friends and associates about the smell of purported decomposition in his place.
Like, who
and
does
we know that
that?
on April 16th, 2026, he was arrested. When you go to the criminal complaint, it also includes these special circumstance allegations: murder of a witness, murder for financial gain, lying in wait, as well as a special allegation that he personally used a deadly and dangerous weapon, a sharp instrument, to commit the crime. So the prosecutors allege that he killed Celeste to prevent her from coming forward, seemingly about their relationship, which would have cost him his career, to silence her. That is what makes this a capital murder case, those special circumstances allegations. So the death penalty is potentially on the table, but we also know that there hasn't been an execution in California for years. There's a moratorium on executions. Quick snapshot of the background. Now I want to talk about what happened today. Okay, so let me bring on somebody who was in that courtroom today. She's outside the courthouse right now. NBC LA reporter Julia Deng. Julia, thanks so much for coming back here on Sidebar. Before we get into the substantive issues about what happened today, I understand it was a quick hearing, but important nonetheless. How did David look? How did he look compared to the last time you saw him?
I'm so glad, Jesse, you opened with that question, because that was actually the first thing I texted your producers. It was the first thing I noticed. he did not look great. I mean, he came in clean shaven. It looks like he may have gotten that haircut his attorneys requested, but he didn't look good. He looks like he hasn't slept properly in days. He's got bags under his eyes. He looked kind of rumpled. He was wearing the regulation orange jail uniform he had on last time, but the white undershirt this time, it was just really disheveled. Here's the thing, though. This is David we're talking about. He is so comfortable in front of cameras, in front of people on stages. He came in, he sat down in front of the judge like he owned that courtroom, and he started nodding and smiling at people. He didn't speak much. He just said, "Yes, Your Honor," to acknowledge her questions when she asked if he was okay with essentially delaying this case further. But he was very engaged, very active, making eye contact with the judge, nodding and smiling throughout. And this really caught my attention. Near the end of this very short hearing, really the court proceedings only went on for about 4 minutes, we caught David and his defense attorney smiling at each other. This really appears to be part of the defense strategy to just keep on delaying. So he may have gotten out of this hearing today feeling like they notched some kind of win before this even goes to trial.
And I want to talk about that. Little 180, I got to tell you about a sponsor of ours. Because look, the truth is the summer's here, the weather's getting nice, quality over.
Did he just cut her off
super
to,
with
to include a sponsor?
There. Was there anybody there in a little bit, right? For free shipping and 365-day returns. Just to set the scene a little bit, right? Context of where you were. Was there anybody there for David? Was there family there? Were there friends there? Were there any known associates there? Was there anybody from Celeste's family there? I mean, what was the scene like in the courtroom?
She said no.
Not that I'm aware of. I did not see anyone sitting in the courtroom this morning who was easily identifiable as friends, families, or supporters of either the defendant or his alleged victim. But the back 2 rows were completely filled. Those were seats set aside for us, journalists covering this case.
Oh, wow.
And then ahead of us, I think about 1.5 to 2 rows were filled, and those were spectators. I spoke with a couple of them, just people from around LA who have been interested in this case, who have been following it. Nobody was really taking a side. No one said anything about being personally connected to either David or Celeste. So no, we didn't see family, but David was definitely just holding court on his own. Again, walking out of this hearing smiling.
Again, before we go into what happened today, for people who...
Smiling? What? I mean, what can you really expect? This motherfucker crazy. I mean, it's alleged that he did this. It's alleged, whatever. But it's just that all the signs point to him. And if it's true, with all the signs pointing to him, smiling is crazy. That's wild. That's wicked.
No, when you talk about the condition, right? When you talk about the way David looks, where has he been? Like, what are the conditions that he's living in right now? Because he's locked up.
I mean, he is in the county jail. He is behind bars, and everybody there is now aware of what he has been charged with. It's not just first-degree murder. It's first-degree murder on top of continuous sexual abuse of a child under the age of 14. And then on top of that, after he's accused of stabbing Celeste to death and abusing her sexually, he's accused of mutilating her corpse. So just imagine what other inmates must feel about having a neighbor like that. I know rumors have been floating around online about the nature of his imprisonment right now. He did have bail denied, so he's not going anywhere anytime soon. But I can only imagine what those daily conditions are like. He's allowed to shower reportedly once every other day. He's allowed to make phone calls only on those days. So this is somebody who had celebrity status. He had a following of several million.
Shit, not
He had a
anymore.
multi-million-dollar career in the works. He had sponsorship deals. He was touring. He had an album coming out. And now he's wearing this orange jumpsuit. He is behind bars, and he is probably up against behavior that has him staying up every night. And that's why he came in today looking like he has not slept in days. I wish we could have cameras in there because it wasn't just his demeanor that captured my attention. It was his face. This is not the same David we saw in his mugshots, in his promotional photos, on tour. This is a very different David Anthony Burke, now possibly about to stand trial for first-degree murder.
And look, yeah, like you said.
But the thing is, allegedly had sexual relations with a child. Like, that's the biggest red flag of all right there. Is that there's evidence pointing to the fact that you had inappropriate relations with a child. That's number one. Number two, there's text messages, there's receipts from all the shit that he ordered on Amazon, which is stupid, because why would you do that? But, whatever. I'm happy that a lot of criminals are stupid because at least they get caught. What else? The body being found in your car, registered in your name, smells coming from your house. Like, all this is pointing towards you. So my thing is, the people that he's in jail with, no, they don't fuck with him. He- there could be other unalivers in that jail and they still don't fuck with him. Especially when it comes to abusing abusing a child and then mutilating their corpse is sick. You're sick in the head. So of course he's not having a good time in prison.
He's facing serious charges. We have a sense, sort of what the evidence is from the prosecution. We were hoping to get a better sense for a preliminary hearing that was supposed to happen in 2 weeks. But I'm going to give you the floor right now. You're in this courtroom. You're at this status conference. It's supposed to be like, where are we at in the case? What exactly happened today?
It got delayed again. In a nutshell, Jesse, it got pushed back yet again because the defense wants to keep on delaying. So I love coming on your podcast, but we're going to have to do this again in July after we just did this in May. So the status conference is one part of the preliminary hearing process here in California. So we just did this May 12th. It was supposed to be a preliminary hearing May 26th. That ended up getting moved. So then it was status conference today, June 17th, preliminary hearing June 29th. Now that date, the 29th of June, that's been canceled. We're going to do another status conference July 7th now. And then there's supposed to be a preliminary hearing on July 21st.
Yeah, he's gonna be in there for
but
some
I would
time.
not be surprised
For a
at this
long-ass
point
time.
if this gets continued or delayed again.
And Julia, why did that happen, right? It has something to do with the evidence in this case, the amount of evidence. I understand there was a closed door hearing as well. I mean, do you have any sense about what the delay is about?
Yeah, that is exactly right. So they started the court proceedings a little bit late today. The entire thing went on for 4 minutes, but the judge sat down and immediately told all of us that there was actually a closed door in chambers hearing this morning ahead of the scheduled status conference. So she met with both sides. She met with the prosecution and the defense. And apparently, defense made a motion to continue or delay the preliminary hearing. Now, the judge indicated it was because of some kind of evidence that came out during the discovery process. She says, the judge says, the court decided there were grounds to continue this case, to delay it to July. But beyond that, we don't actually know what exactly in the evidence led to this. I imagine it might have something to do with just the amount of data. We talked about that last time, how the prosecution started uploading evidence from hard drives seized during the investigation, and days later, they were only about 10% through that upload process.
Damn.
What we were hearing was it was 40 plus terabytes
What?
of data, and that does include video evidence, photos
Oh
of
my.
Celeste and the defendant.
Uh,
So I imagine just the volume of
40
data that still has to be
terabytes?
sifted through has something to do
No
with the
fucking way.
defense calling for this delay and the prosecution agreeing.
And look, what's difficult about it is
So they have to go through all of that data, and they said they only got through 10% of that? That means they only got through 4 terabytes. You know how much of the terabyte is? Do you know how many photos or videos that could take up 1 terabyte? Like, that's fucking wild. 40? 40 is fucking crazy. Hey, what's going on, Rage? 40. Hold on, I gotta do the math on this one right here. Imma play the video, but Imma do the
don't
math.
know what the defense is going to do. We don't know if their defense is going to challenge the timeline. We don't know if the defense is going to challenge the cause of death. But, you know, there is a question of how much they're going to fight the allegations of
Did
this
something more
sexual
happen?
abuse material allegedly found on.
So, there was a preliminary hearing on June, what, 17th, I believe they said, and the journalist is basically saying she's basically speaking about how disheveled he looked during that hearing. It looked like he wasn't getting any sleep. He definitely looked like a completely different person from when he first walked in and got arrested. And she's saying that could be due to the fact that a lot of the prison inmates don't fuck with him. You know, but of course she said it in a more professional way. Um, but besides that, they have to push back the date. So he's gonna have another court date in like July. But she's saying that the reason why they're pushing it back, or that she believes they're pushing it back, is because there's more evidence that the prosecutors haven't gotten through. And the fucked up part is that evidence is what, 36 terabytes of photos and videos of him and Celeste and other CP footage, which is crazy because I don't understand. How do you have 40 terabytes of that? Like, that's crazy. Makes sense. I heard that prisoners don't like the stuff you did. That's what I'm saying. Like, there could be other prisoners in there who have done horrible crimes, and what he did is just despicable, because it really is despicable. You have a full-blown relationship with a child, and then you unalive that said child, dismember her body, and have it sitting in your Tesla for months? Like, only a sick individual would do something like that.
Devices. And, you know, maybe they need more time to form an argument. They need more time to prepare because in a preliminary hearing, like we've talked about before, this case had gone to grand juries where it's one-sided. It's only the
What?
prosecution presenting evidence.
Hold on.
No indictment was returned through that grand jury, so there was questions about why that was. But now it goes to a preliminary hearing in front of a judge. The defense has an opportunity to challenge this evidence, to hear what the prosecution has and to challenge it, see where the prosecution's going with their case. But we don't know how the defense is going to do it. And so going back to what you mentioned, whether or not this is an advantage for the defense, as somebody who's been covering this case for quite some time, I want to read you real quick what Steve Fisher posted on X today after this hearing. So Steve Fisher is a private investigator who's been looking into this case. He was hired by the owner of the property where David had reportedly been staying, a property that's reportedly near where that Tesla was recovered, with obviously Celeste's body allegedly found inside. So he wrote today The preliminary hearing in the David case has been continued until July 21st. He is presumed innocent in the eyes of the law, but as a human being with a brain and the ability to think and perceive, I have to say this. This is not how I would expect an innocent person to direct his lawyers to act. If I were innocent and had been sitting in jail for months on charges I did not commit, I would be telling my very high-priced lawyers, no more delays, get me the bleep out of here. But that is not what is happening. Now,
So David is delaying his own case. That's stupid. So I looked it up. 1 terabyte of video footage in 4K resolution is 10 to 20 hours of footage. In 1080p, 200 to 500 hours. S20p, 500 to 1,000 hours. Um, being as though that he has money, um, I'm pretty sure he did 4K, so I'm just gonna average 10 to 20 hours. So 20 hours and 1 terabyte. Wait a minute. If my math is mathing correctly. Hold on. And that's just videos. We don't know about pictures yet. But let's just say about, on average, 15 hours for 1 terabyte. You have 40. That's 600 hours of video, or 50 days of videos. That's crazy. That doesn't even count how many photos. And it's not just of him and her, it's other like CP on there.
Julia, look, from a
Allegedly.
legal point of view, I'll just give my 2 cents. Look, I get what he's saying, right? If the prosecution, if he's really innocent, then you would assume that the prosecution's evidence against him is really weak. Put their feet to the fire, have an immediate preliminary hearing, which is kind of what I think the defense initially wanted. We'll challenge the evidence, we'll get him out, that'll be that. But the other way of looking at it is, you know, you got to prepare a proper legal argument, and you need time to look at what the prosecution's evidence is. So how do you see it, whether or not this delay is actually an advantage to David and his defense team?
I think there is so much evidence against the defendant here, Jesse. I don't really know if there's any kind of advantage for his case. I hate to let what's happening in the court of public opinion, you know, leak into what's actually happening in the courtroom, but it is an undeniable fact that there is overwhelming evidence against David Anthony Burke here. Otherwise,
Very
prosecutors
overwhelming.
would not have brought this case. Now, there are questions as to why there was no grand jury indictment, but we have seen the 9-page preliminary brief now, the charging document, if you will, laying out what the prosecution's side of this is going to look and sound like in courts. And even some of that material that can't be presented to the court,
completely.
you know, they've described what that is, and that's part of that 40-plus terabyte volume of data that was dumped during discovery on the defense. Now, from the attorney's standpoint, I understand the more time they have, right, the more options they can consider, the more research they can do. From David's standpoint, from the defendant's standpoint, he's the one sitting in jail. I don't know how much longer he really wants to be there. Again, he did not look good this morning. He clearly has not been sleeping well behind bars. So his attorneys, his team, probably sold this to him hard. You know, the more time we have, the more we can look into this, and build a stronger case for you. Because he's not just facing one felony charge. This is not just a murder case. He's accused of 3 separate felonies. One of those felonies has special circumstances that make him eligible for the death penalty, even though executions have been halted here in the state of California since 2019. It is still legal for the death penalty to be a sentence considered by prosecutors. So there's still a question mark as to whether the prosecution is going to go down that route. But serious case here, I imagine they just want more time to figure out what in the world they're going to do to fight this.
And look, there is a moratorium on executions, although I will tell you this. This is what I want to really ask you about, because we knew that this wasn't the preliminary hearing today. We knew we weren't going to maybe find out all the evidence, but I was hoping we would get a preview. I was hoping we'd get an idea of what we can expect at the preliminary hearing, because this is a case that has been shrouded in secrecy since September of last year. We're looking for bits and pieces of information and evidence. So when this preliminary hearing potentially happens, whether it's in July or it's pushed off, what are you looking out for? Are you going to be saying, you know what, Jesse, I really want to see the actual substance, the actual content of the text messages between Celeste and David, not just the descriptions of them by prosecutors. I want to know more of the explanation of that Santa Barbara trip.
I mean, I think that all of the evidence is out there. What more details do you need? Although I didn't react to previous videos, I've seen previous videos about this case ever since he got arrested. And there's surmounting evidence, text messages, pictures, videos, witnesses. Like, there's so much out there. It's like, what more do you need?
Jesse, I want to see the surveillance video of David allegedly driving the Tesla. How about this? How exactly are prosecutors going to prove that they know that he watched her bleed out in his home? Is there surveillance? Is there an eyewitness? What about the DNA and the forensics? You know, there's a part in one of the prosecution's filings where they say inside the garage, detectives discovered evidence consistent with the dismemberment of the victim's body in the inflatable pool, which contained multiple linear cuts. Several biological samples, which tested positive for blood, were collected within the garage area. DNA analysis determined that various samples matched the victim's unique genetic profile. So what are you looking out for? What do you want to see in this case?
I'm looking for all of that, Jesse, and in addition, I'm curious about who the prosecution is going to call as a witness. Now, the DA brought that up this morning. The prosecution brought that up this morning. They said they had to check with detectives. They had to check with their witnesses before agreeing to a status conference timeline. They did eventually settle on that July 7th date. But yeah, I'm curious about all of that because the wording in that preliminary brief is so interesting. Prosecutors state so much of that as facts, which obviously raises the question, well, how do you know? How do you know the defendant stood by and watched his victim bleed out? I mean, two options come to mind immediately for me. Either there was a witness who is claiming that, or there must be surveillance video. And yes,
Oh, wow.
absolutely. I am curious about the text message exchanges between David and Celeste. We have all read now the descriptions of those text messages, how some of them have made reference to things like Plan B, abortion, pregnancy, sexual activity between the two. We have not actually read those messages. I'm also curious about the final argument the two of them had, the one that went on before David allegedly ordered an Uber that brought Celeste from her family's home in Lake Elsinore, more than 80 miles away, to his rental home in the Hollywood Hills before her phone went dead and she went missing. So there's so much of that evidence that sounds like it was preserved on devices. In addition, right, we've talked about the chainsaws that David ordered from Amazon that were sent to his address. I'm curious about all of those
From
things
Amazon.
that have been referenced now.
Look, the situation isn't funny, but it's crazy because you know how like we've heard so many, or at least like I used to watch like a bunch of documentaries and stuff. And that was before all this technology. Imagine using a delivery service for your unaliving weapons. Ain't that some crazy shit? I'm just going Amazon. I'm going to buy everything I need. What about in the movies where people actually like go to like a hardware store and shit and buy what they needed? No, Imma get it from Amazon, like, that's so fucking stupid.
We get more information about where this is going and who is going to take the stand as a
Right.
witness to add color, to add dimension.
Yeah, and look, a couple of things there, right? So in a preliminary hearing, you would imagine it's not all the prosecution's evidence that they have, and sure, they get more evidence as they go to trial, but it usually be like the lead detective to kind of summarize everything that they have. But also, you have to think about this, right? The conversation that David allegedly had with Celeste to allegedly lure her there, that goes not only to the idea of motive, that goes to the special circumstances, lying in wait, killing a witness for financial gain. She had to have said, I'm going to ruin your career. I'm going to go to the authorities. I'm going to expose you. So what do those messages exactly say? But also, before I let you go, Julia, cooperating witnesses. I don't know if there's anybody from David's inner circle who is going to testify against him, anybody
They
who
might.
may have had a role, who may have aided, who may have abetted, who may have facilitated, anybody who may have assisted him in any way with based on the allegations that he's facing. We haven't heard that he's had any help, but one of the things we have wondered, is there an immunity deal? Is there anybody, a cooperating witness who will testify
Right.
against him? Have you heard anything to indicate that whatsoever as we
Yeah,
now
'cause
wait
I
for the
wanna
next
know.
part of this case?
I have not heard anything about an immunity deal, Jesse, but it's what we haven't heard that raises more questions. People in David's inner circle, people who've been shown in
Right.
photos with him at concerts, in his live stream videos, who've been on his social
Like, where are
media,
they at?
many of them are now very tight lipped and making moves to distance themselves.
I mean, I understand not wanting to be a part of this, but at the end of the day, if you know somebody that did some fucked up shit like this, like, and to not and you have to know something, like, his friends had to have known something, and to not speak up about it and still defend him is crazy.
From David. That tells me they're not supporting him. And it wouldn't shock me at this point if any one of them struck some kind of immunity deal with prosecutors
One
to
of them might.
share what they know.
They
Now, I
have
do
to
want to
know.
point out that David has a brother who allegedly met Celeste when she traveled with him out
Wow.
of state, out of California. It sounds like she went to Texas to meet his family. David has a little brother. So, very curious if he ends up on the prosecution's witness list, and
Mm.
of course, what he has to say about his family member.
Yeah. Julia, thank you so much for being our.
And then, like, apparently the family or nor his friends showed up in court. So they all are trying to distance themselves from him, which is very understandable though. But at some point in time, someone's going to come out and someone's going to say something. It's crazy to me that it was known around him, but no one wanted to expose. Exactly. And that's the fucked up part. I I believe that someone's going to say something, but I think it's only because he's in jail right now. But all of this could have been prevented if someone spoke up beforehand, before she was unalive, because there was multiple chances for other people to speak up and no one did. He he took her to meet his family. So that means that his family knew. Her family knew. The kids that she went to school with knew. People on the live streams knew. I mean, apparently, I don't know how true it is, but someone had came out and said that they used to play with David and Celeste on Fortnite at one point in time. I forgot what year. But at one point in time, they played with both of them on Fortnite, and they pretty much described how David always had her with him on Fortnite. Like it was always the two of them together on Fortnite. So all these people knew and no one said anything. This could have prevented all of this from happening. And then how do you even fly a minor out of the state or out of the country? Like, that shit don't make no sense to me. All this shit could have been prevented.
years about what's happening in that courtroom. I mean, I could go day and night about how much I think it's a problem not to have cameras in every courtroom in this country. I think they should be everywhere, but I really appreciate the absolutely fantastic reporting, and I'm sure we're going to be having this conversation again in July. You know, hopefully we'll have a status conference. Hopefully we'll have a preliminary hearing, because as much as the public and we are looking for answers, it's really the family. It's Celeste's family that deserves answers. They deserve to know what's going on here, and hopefully they get those answers sooner rather than later. Julia Dang, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you
Alright,
so much for
guys.
joining.
Oops, my bad. I clicked on the wrong video. Damn it. I gotta go back. I wanted to see the comments.
I was gonna try to
Go
kill the
back to
whole
that.
family.
From chilling confessions
My mom's been in that.
And my computer is slowing down again.
accused child murderer David was back in court today for a status conference, a key meeting before.
Okay, I just wanted to look at the comments. Interrupting the news reporter with a sponsor was a bit insane, not gonna lie. I felt the same thing. I thought I was the only one. I was like, did he really just like say, hold on, I have to talk about this sponsor real quick. Like what? I thought the same too as well as how he was replying. Yeah, he kept cutting her off and shit. He did this shit the other day with the with the Carmelo Anthony case and the motherfucking gambling sponsor. Beyond distasteful, bro. Seems like this guy only cares about the money. That part was likely pre-recorded and edited into the video after he spoke with the reporter. Dude, they are pre-recorded segments. They aren't actually talking to each other. They're pre-recorded segments? Thank you for finally calling her a child. Exactly. She was, because what? All this shit started at 11 years old. She was 11 years old, bro. Interrupting reporter for a fucking advertisement. I've never heard of this weirdo until exactly. And I'm really happy that I never listened to his music. I have no idea what his music sounds like at all. I didn't even know who he was. Not until this shit came out. Ordering a chainsaw for this off Amazon is literally insane. You always see the real narcissist when everything falls apart. This man is guilty as fuck. It doesn't take a genius to know that enough of these delays. His lawyers know he's guilty as fuck and they're taking him to the cleaners before he goes down. The bags under his eyes are because he has to stay awake. They're going exactly. Justice for Celeste, yes. Ad placement was atrocious. He's better start doing push-ups and learn how to fight real quick. Nah, for real though. But definitely rest in peace to Celeste. She didn't deserve none of this. She didn't. And the thing is, it's all up to the adult at the end of the day. Like, she was a child. For her to be in to have relations with an adult as a child, that's not her fault. She was a child. Children cannot consent. But the adult in a situation, the adult should have never been there, first of all. If you're not a family member, you shouldn't even have been there to begin with. But it seems like he's going down for his alleged crimes. Um, but let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think of the video. I do have another video. I don't know how recent it is, but we could check that joint out too.